Well, hey everyone, and happy 4th of July week. For those of you joining us outside the US, the 4th of July is the day that we celebrate our country's independence, which began this week in 1776. And no, I was not there.
We usually celebrate with great food and some amazing fireworks, but most importantly, we celebrate our nation's freedom, including the freedom to worship God freely, like we're going to do today.
Now, if you're joining us for the first time, we hope you have an awesome weekend, and we also want everybody to know that we have a new and improved Eastside app.
The new app is really user-friendly and will help you engage and connect in lots of different ways, so pull out your phone and update to or download the new Eastside app right now.
Now, with that said, today's the first part of our new series called Road Trip. In just a minute, we're going to enjoy the freedom we have to worship together, so let's get things going. Eastside starts right now.
Welcome to Eastside, where we gather, all of us, each in different stage of our spiritual journey, young and old, all races and colors. We don't exist for ourselves, but for people. People that haven't been invited, people that haven't been cared for, who have walked away from God. People have a past that pushes others away. It's about the hurting and those who have lost hope. We gather as one church, not as individuals, not as separate campuses, but as a family pushing towards the same thing, knowing that Jesus was not for the select few, but for all of us. We believe Jesus is the hope in a world of darkness, and it's through his church that the world will find light. We believe who we choose to be today will determine the world of tomorrow. So we have a vision, to begin each day with purpose, to open our hearts and minds to learn something new, to let go of our comfortable living to reach the searching, the broken, the hurting, to focus on what really matters, to band together and fight against the darkness. A vision to be the church Jesus called us to be. This isn't just a church. Eastside is a movement of people who gather together with Jesus declaring, this is for everyone.
What's up, church? You guys doing all right? Can we just stand with us? Happy 4th of July weekend. Come on, let's put our hands together. Yeah. You pull me from darkness and clothe me in garments of praise. Jesus, forever my song will be. I'm living in freedom. You've taken my burdens away. Jesus, forever my song will be. Only for you. From the cross that you bore and the debt that you paid, for the victory you won over death and the grave. This is the reason I sing, for the hope that you give and the joy that you bring, for the promise that heaven is waiting for me. This is the reason I sing. I will not be silent. I will not be silent, and I'll testify of your grace. Jesus, forever my song will be only for you. For the cross that you bore and the debt that you paid, for the victory you won over death and the grave. This is the reason I sing, for the hope that you give and the joy that you bring, for the promise that heaven is waiting for me. This is the reason I sing. Oh, so good, so good, so good to me. Oh, forever I'll sing. You're so good to me. Go on, declare this word. He's so good, so good, so good. You're so good to me. Forever I'll sing. You're so good to me. Whoa. For the cross that you bore and the debt that you paid, for the victory you won over death and the grave. This is the reason I sing, for the hope that you give and the joy that you bring, for the promise that heaven is waiting for me. This is the reason I sing, for the cross that you bore and the debt that you paid, for the victory you won over death and the grave. This is the reason I sing, for the hope that you give and the joy that you bring, for the promise that heaven is waiting for me. This is the reason I sing. Come on, praise the one. He's the reason we say. We sing the songs to you, Father. Come on and sing your word. Your word is a lamp unto my feet. Your way is the only way for 'cause you're good in your promise. Come on, declare it. I'll take you at your word. If you said it, I believe it. I've seen how good you are. If you started to complete it, I'll take you at your word. You spoke, and the chaos fell in line. I know, and I know, 'cause I've seen it in my life. There's a narrow road that leads to life, but I wanna be on it. There's a narrow road, the tide is high, but you brought up the water. I'll take you at your word. If you said it, I believe it. I've seen how good it was. If you started to complete it, I'll take you at your word. If you said it, I believe it. I've seen how good it was. If you started to complete it, I'll take you at your word. 'Cause you're good in your promise. You said your love will never give up. You said your grace is always enough. You said your heart would never forget or forsake me. Come on, if you believe, declare these words, church. You said I'm saved. You call me yours. You said my future's full of your hope. You never failed, so I know that you never failed me. I'll take you at your word. Come on, put your hands together.
You said it, I believe it. I've seen how good it was.
Oh, it was.
If you started to complete it,
I'll take you at your word. If you said it, I believe it. I've seen how good it was. If you started to complete it, I'll take you at your word. 'Cause you're good in your promise. Take you at your word. Go on, give him praise in this place.
God, thanks for being our light. It's incredible to know that no darkness can prevail with just the sound of your name. Praise, bring it all to peace. The storm surrounding me, let it break at your name. Still, call the sea to still. The rage in me, it is still. Every wave at your name. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, breathe, breathe. Call these bones to live. Call these lungs to see once again. I will praise Jesus, Jesus. You make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. You silence fear. let's raise our voices and let's sing, Your name is a light. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is alive, forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Let's sing Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. It was so good to worship together. You may take a seat and let's check out this video.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Las Vegas Strip. My name is Tony Schwartz, and I'm the campus pastor of Eastside, Las Vegas. Vegas is commonly known as Sin City. You've heard that. And it's pretty appropriate, actually. I mean, this place can be crazy, nutty, over the top, and extravagant. But it's also home to some great, hardworking, and really kind people. But down here on the Strip, it is Sin City. You can go 50 yards in any direction, and you'd come across at least a few of the 7 deadly sins. In fact, when people get off the plane at our airport, they will just hand you some scissors and tell you to run. We're going to have communion right now with this as a backdrop. If you didn't get the elements as you walked in, just raise your hand real high, and a changemaker will help you out. But I want us to think about this. You and me are like Sin City too, right? Romans 3 says that all of us have sinned and all of us fall short of the glory of God. You and me are Sin City, and without the grace of God in Jesus' sacrifice on the cross, we'd be stuck in Sin City. But because of Jesus, we're covered in grace, and Sin City becomes Grace City in your heart and in mine. And listen, if you're new to communion, some of us don't really know what communion is yet. Don't feel pressure to take part right now, but when you're ready, there's always going to be a place for you here at Eastside. Let's celebrate communion now.
suddenly articulate with 1,000 tongues to live one cry. Then from north to south and east to west, we hear Christ be magnified. Would you please stand? Let's worship together. Where the whole earth echoing His eminence, His name would burst from sea and sky, from rivers to the mountain tops. We'd hear Christ be magnified. Let's raise our voices and let's sing together. Christ be magnified. Oh, Christ be magnified. Let His praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. And every creature finds its endless melody, and every human heart is native pride. And one enraptured hymn of praise will sing Christ be magnified. Christ be magnified. Let His praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. Christ be magnified in me. Ooh, let's sing together. I won't bow to idols. I stand strong in worshiping You. And if it puts me in the fire, I rejoice 'cause You're there too. I won't be fooled by feelings. I'll hold fast to what is true. If the cross brings transformation, then I'll be crucified with You. 'Cause there is just a doorway to resurrection life. If I join You in His sufferings, then I'll join You when You rise. When You return in glory with all the angels and the saints, my heart will still be singing, my soul will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified. Let His praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. One more time. Oh, Christ be magnified. Let His praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified
That was awesome, wasn't it? Hey, you can turn and grab a seat if you would. For me, you guys, that is so helpful to sing true words and just be giving a little perspective on a Sunday morning. So hope you are glad that you came to Eastside so far. I know I am. My name's Scott Rubin. I get to work with our Next Gen teams around here. And I don't know if you know this, but that last song that we just sang was not selected by the worship team here. You say, who was it selected by? Well, it was selected by lots of you who voted on the Eastside app that is relatively new out there. So way to go. I think that was a good selection. I actually suggested that maybe we should vote on whether Valet would sing that beautiful song as she did on her own, or if maybe I should join her in a duet. And they assured me that we didn't need to vote on that. So I wanted to just say, if you've not downloaded the Eastside app, it's easy to do. It's free in the App Store. And it's not just for things like voting on songs. There's some really helpful information about what's going on around Eastside, and also some things that can help you on your spiritual journey. So I want to encourage you to download that. If you're not super techie, I'm sure you've got a techie friend, and they will help you out. Now, I'm really excited about summer at Eastside. You can tell, 4th of July week, I'm pumped up. I'm ready. I felt really good about my fashion choices, until Jake, who's going to teach later on, looked at me last night and said, bro, is that a woman's blazer you got on? But I'm secure, all right? I'm good with it. So hope that you're looking forward to the 4th week. But also, summer at Eastside, there's all kinds of fun things going on around our church, things to be helpful with you. And we just got back from high school summer camp a couple days ago. And if you are in high school or know a high schooler, 6 o'clock tonight, HSM meets. It's fantastic. They got a great thing going on tonight. It's always a good time to come for the first time or the first time in a while. So just want to invite any of you who are high schoolers or know a high schooler tonight, 6 o'clock. It's going to be great. Now, we're in this series right now, starting a series called Road Trip. And Road Trip is all about how do we, on the journey of life, invite Jesus to kind of be our guide in the midst of it. And it stems from this verse out of 1 John. I just want to point you to it on the screens here. It says, that's how we know we are living in him. Those who say that they live in God should live their lives as Jesus did. Jesus is our model, and we strive as Jesus followers to be kind, because Jesus was extraordinarily kind, even to people that society kind of left on the margins, right? Jesus was forgiving. Jesus was forgiving to so many people when he was offended. He was a very forgiving person. That's why we strive to be forgiving people. And Jesus was probably the most generous person that ever walked the face of the earth. Generous with his time, generous with his interactions with people, and generous even to the place of giving his life as payment. Generous all the way, the ultimate generosity. And that is the reason that at Eastside, we strive for the same thing. We want to be a generous church, and so many of you are just that. And I just want to emphasize in this moment, this all happens because of the generosity of Eastsiders. So I want to say thank you for that, and just a reminder of everything that's going on is because people have decided, I want to step up and do that. And if you're interested in that generosity journey, there's 3 ways you can do that at the black boxes in the back of the room. You can do that on the Eastside app that we just mentioned, or you can do that on the website. And mostly just want to say thanks to those of you who are doing that currently. It is making a difference. Now, if you're here for the first time, if you can erase the last minute of memory from you, because I'm not interested in talking to you about generosity, but I do want to ask one favor of you if you're brand new. Would you, on your way out, would you stop at Guest Central just for a minute? Someone there would love to say hello to you and would love to give you a gift just for showing up this morning. It means a lot to us that you would come and spend some time with us on a Sunday morning. There's a Eastside travel mug that they'd like to give you, and inside that travel mug is a gift card for a meal at the grill. It's delicious, and for you and your whole family, we'd love to invite you to have a meal on us, and just want to say thanks for coming. Hope you like it. Hope you like it enough to maybe come back again, and we're just thrilled that you would be here with us this morning. So also, this is for if you're new or if you're old, if you've been here for a while. We have an experience called Next Steps, which ironically is designed to help you take a next step, both around Eastside and in your own spiritual life. So if you're the kind of person who likes to do those things in order, today is week 1, but you don't have to go in order. So if you're the kind of person that doesn't like to do things in order, just note the times, and it's a place where you can really kind of figure out what a next step might look like for you. So last thing I want to say before I leave the stage is, again, related to the Eastside app, and I'm reaching for my phone because on the Eastside app, there's a section in the middle at the bottom that says Weekly Guide. And I just want to say, if you pull out your phone, no one will think you're checking scores or whatever. They'll think you're using the Eastside app. That's kind of cool. But you can tap that weekly guide at the bottom, and there's actually sermon notes. It's pretty easy to find on there. But this is a cool feature I like. I've discovered this week. On the sermon notes, there's actually like some fill-in-the-blank pages or the sections, but you don't have to fill in the blank. You just touch the box and it appears, which I like because I don't have to fill it out myself. And then if you're like me, sometimes I'll be like, gosh, what was that verse that he referenced 5 minutes ago? Or what was that thing that he said? Later on I'll be thinking about it. Pops up all right there on the Eastside app. So pretty helpful tool. Want to encourage you to lean into that if that's helpful for you. So mostly, though, I just want to say it's so good to be together, church. Glad that we're here together at Eastside, and let's get ready for going on this road trip together.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to Eastside. So glad that you're here today. Happy 4th of July weekend. May you celebrate with multiple hot dogs and create safe explosions in your neighborhood, all right? Nothing says America better than that. Hey, my name is Jake, and I get to be one of the pastors here, and I'm so glad that we get to hang out together today. I'd love your help in welcoming all 7 of our Eastside locations. Will you give some love to Anaheim, Park Rapids, Bellflower, Redlands, online, Las Vegas, and Irvine? We are still riding high off of what God did in and through all 7 campuses because there were 85 people that were baptized last weekend. Can we celebrate that together? 85. That is not normal. We are convinced that God is doing big things, and we are truly honored to be a small part of it. So no matter where you are watching from today, no matter where you're attending, I'm fully convinced that God has something to say to you right here and right now. This week, we're kicking off a new message series called Road Trip. And with the summer months come travel. Maybe you might even have a vacation planned. And depending on who you are and where you're going, your mode of transportation may vary. Some of us, we fly everywhere. Maybe you're a coach person, maybe you're a business class, maybe you're even a first class kind of person. Some of us will jump on a ship and we'll go on a cruise and sail the seas. And then the rest of us are left to drive where we're going. And just to get a feel for everyone that's here today, at all of our locations, just by a show of hands, I want to take a quick poll as to how long of a road trip you've taken. How many of you, raise your hand if you've been on a road trip that was at least 4 hours long, right? Raise your hand, look around, almost everybody, 4 hours. All right, what about 8 hours? You've been on a road trip that was 8 hours long. Okay, let's go 12 hours. How many of you have been on a 12-hour road trip? Half a day in the car. All right, last question. Here's the real test. How many of you have been one over 12 hours? You've driven over 12 hours. Keep those hands raised. Look around you, okay? I just want you to know that was a mistake, okay? You didn't enjoy it, and here's how I know, is that no one is still friends after 12 hours in the car. You should have flown, all right? That's my free advice to you next time. Now, no matter where you were going or how long it took you to get there, I can guarantee that you did not travel in as much style as we did as a young family when I was growing up. Here was our family car. This is an actual picture, a 1983 Pontiac Parisian station wagon. Friends, this had features, okay? On the side, there was wood paneling, all right? It had both AM and FM radio, and it went from 0 to 60 eventually, all right? Whenever he got around to it, that's where we went. Now, the best feature of this station wagon is that in the back seat was a bench, but instead of designing it to look out the windshield, they turned it around and you looked out the back window. And so in my family, my 2 younger sisters took the middle bench and I sat in the back. So for my entire childhood, I was not looking at where we were going, but where we had already been, right? And I don't know, that might explain some things about me. But no matter how long it took you to get there or what you traveled in, the key to a successful road trip is having good navigation. Right? You got to have a tool that helps you get from point A to point B. And our tools of navigation have developed considerably over the last few years, haven't they? I mean, how many of you remember when you were completely at the mercy of a paper map, all right? A paper map looks something like this. This is how you got around. Or maybe you had a book of maps called what? An atlas, right? You just took the whole world with you everywhere you went, just in case you wanted to go somewhere new. Now, when you needed a map, here's what you did is you would look around you and you would find a landmark and you'd find it on the map. And then you would have to do some slight calculus and long division to eventually figure out where you were going. But then with the advent of the internet, a new tool entered our life. Now, in the early days of the internet, those of you under 30 won't believe me, but you had to go visit the internet. You couldn't take the internet with you, all right? So you would have to plug it in, and there was a website that you could put in your final destination, and it would provide you turn-by-turn instructions. Anybody remember this website? What was it called? MapQuest, all right? How many of you remember printing out a piece of paper that looked a lot like this? My wife and I, Trudy, we got married on July 7th, 2007, which means we are celebrating 16 years of marriage this week. All right, thank you very much. All credit goes to Trudy on that one. And a few weeks after our wedding, we attended a ceremony for a friend who was getting married in Canada. And so this was 2007, couldn't take the internet with you. So we printed off MapQuest instructions to get to Canada. And so we crossed the border and we started driving. And after a few miles, or as the Canadians call them, kilometers, we realized that we had gotten off track. And the problem with MapQuest instructions is that the very second that you make a mistake, the rest of the instructions are irrelevant, all right? This doesn't matter anymore. You have to figure out where you messed up, return to that exact spot, and then you can return to your route. And so my wife of 3 weeks leans over to me and she says, do we need to stop and ask for help? And in all of my 23 years of wisdom, I look back at her and said, absolutely not, all right? I have this, I gotta figure it out. Now, eventually we had to fill up for gas and Trudy says she's gonna go in and get a snack. And about 2 minutes later, she returns with no snack in her hand, but a map that she had bought to prove me wrong. And it was in that moment that I realized that I had married the woman that I need, all right? Maps are good. MapQuest was better. But now today, you and I have multiple map apps on our phones that can help us get around, whether you're an Apple Maps or a Google Maps or even a Waze kind of person. Our phones can now direct us with turn-by-turn instructions. And there's even this very gentle and slightly British voice that tells us what to do. And I have become so dependent on my phone to get around, I don't even know the names of the streets in my own neighborhood, all right? I just do whatever the phone tells me to do. And whether you've ever slowed down to think about it like this or not, every single one of us is navigating this one life that we have to live. There are twists and there are turns and occasional detours. And all of us have some sort of destination that we want to head toward. It might be a kind of life that you want to provide for your family, but you're not able to do that right now and you need help getting there. It might be the kind of person that you want to be someday, and you know that that's not true about you right now. It might even be the eternal destination that you want to secure for yourself, but you're not convinced that you have it locked up right here and right now, and we are going to need help getting there. And so over the next couple weeks, we're gonna unpack a couple big truths, and the first one sounds like this. You are following someone. No matter who you are, no matter how long you've been at this, you are following someone. It might be a voice, it might be an influence, a worldview, it might be a specific person, But no matter who you are right now, you are following someone. Some of us have chosen that person intentionally. Like, I want to follow them. I want to lead that kind of life. Others of us have simply defaulted into the loudest voice in our life, but all of us are following someone. And then the second truth that we need to look square in the face is that the destination of your life will be determined by who you follow. Where you end up at the end of it all, like on your final day here on earth, the summary of your life, that destination will absolutely be determined by who you choose to follow. Now, I know there's some of us that would like to think that we are independent and we are in control and I am an island and I am not following a single person, but I'm here to tell you there is a voice that helps you make these big life decisions, and the destination of your life will be determined by who you follow. So how does this show up? Well, every day, you and I, we make certain choices that really aren't that big of a deal. Like the clothes that you chose to wear today, not earth-shattering. Whether you had breakfast or what you ate for breakfast, not the biggest deal. The podcast or playlist that you listen to on your commute, that's not gonna change anybody's life. But then there are occasionally seasons where a decision is in front of you. And I'm talking about one of those big time, grown up, this is going to have ripple effects decisions. And it's in that moment that you are consulting some kind of voice in your head and in your heart that helps you decide. It might be a decision like, should I take this job? I've got multiple opportunities in front of me. This one will pay more, and I can probably do more, but I'll have to relocate away from my family and friends and support system. Or I could stay close to home, but I'm not sure that there won't be a lid on my career, so which job do I take? And in that moment, there's a voice that helps you determine the difference between right and wrong, good and bad, wise and unwise, healthy and unhealthy. It might be the decision of, do I stay with him? You ever been there? I mean, you and him, you've been together for about 2 years. You share the same friend group. Sometimes it seems like things are getting more serious. You've even talked about moving in together, but you wish he was more serious about marriage. And every time you bring up going to church, it causes a fight, and you're just not sure it's going anywhere. So do I stay with him? And in that moment, there's a voice that you are consulting. Maybe you're a parent, and you're trying to figure out, what do I let my kids do? Do I send them to the local public school? Do we pay for private school? Or are we gonna keep them in homeschool? Do we let them watch PG or PG-13 or R-rated movies? Am I gonna let them spend Friday night with that new friend that they've made, even though I'm getting some very suspicious vibes from them? Is curfew gonna be at 8 or midnight or whenever they want? And when you're making these consequential decisions, there is a voice that you're following, and it will determine the destination of your life. For some of us, the voice that we hear every time we need to make a decision is the voice of our parents. It's our mom or our dad. And it actually doesn't matter how old you are, that voice rings loud in our heads because they were so influential with us early. And so when you have a decision on your hands, you're usually having to either explain it or justify it to mom and dad in your head. And if that's your voice, often it leads to a people-pleasing mentality. And we end up asking the question, what will make everyone happy? What's the least dramatic? What's the least divisive decision I can make? I just want to keep everyone together. Even if I'm not happy, if everyone else is happy, then that's okay with me. Maybe the voice that you consult in your head is the voice of your friends. Friends are incredibly influential. I think all of us have at least a moment or a story in our lives where the only reason that we did what we did is because everyone else was doing it. And I hope that that story isn't too detrimental in your lives. Hopefully it didn't involve any jail time, but that is true about all of us, is that sometimes we go with the flow. And so we ask the question, well, what's everyone else doing? That's how I make my decision. I really want to fit in. And so if I do what everyone else is doing, then it increases the likelihood of me staying connected and decreases the likelihood of me being rejected. So I'll just go with the flow. Or maybe the voice that you've tried those two. You've tried to please your parents, and that was a dead end. You tried to go with your friends, and it led to places that you didn't really want to be. And so now you've eliminated everyone except for one, and now it's your own voice, it's yourself. And so every decision that you have, the single question that you ask is, what will make me happy? My happiness is the ultimate goal, so I pursue my desires in the moment. Irregardless of what anyone else is doing, I want to do what makes me happy. And over the next few weeks, we want to ask the simple question, what does it look like to follow the voice of Jesus? Not our parents, not our friends, not even our own voice, because we genuinely believe that the voice of Jesus will lead us to the destination that we deeply desire. And so we're gonna ask some questions like, is that even possible? I mean, is God still speaking, or is he kind of done with that? Can I hear his voice? Is it beneficial? Like, would it even make anything better if I chose to follow the voice of Jesus? Is it enjoyable? Like, would I even like following Jesus' voice in my life? When I need turn-by-turn navigation, why is the voice of Jesus better? Now, over the next few weeks, our teaching pastor, Mike Bro, he's gonna contribute to this series with a lot of the how. Like, how do you hear his voice? How do you apply that to your life? How does that look? But today, we wanna start with the foundation of why. Why, of all the voices that you can listen to, of all the influences, of all the directors that you have at your disposal, why choose the voice of Jesus? I mean, when it comes to things like, what do I do with my body? Or how do I spend my money? Or what do I stand up for? What kind of people am I going to love? I could listen to the voice of an influencer. I could listen to the voice of Oprah. I could listen to the voice of Joe Rogan. I could listen to the voice of anyone online. But why would I choose the voice of Jesus? I don't know how much of the Bible you've read before, but I know there's a lot of rumors out there as to like what kind of life following Jesus leads to. And I think what we're gonna do here is we're gonna read this verse, John chapter 10, verse 10, and Jesus is gonna describe the kind of life he intended for you and I to live. And I think it's gonna be a little surprising. Look at this, straight from the words of Jesus. He said, my purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. Does that surprise you? Rich and satisfying? I think if we polled the general public, I don't know that those are the two words that they would choose when describing the way Christians live. Like, imagine you asking your coworker, they may come up with like, I don't know, I think it's kind of dry and boring. Or maybe your neighbor would say, it seems to me like it's arrogant and judgmental. Maybe you've seen some examples in your own life where it was inauthentic and phony. But straight from Jesus, what he intended to give you and me was a rich and satisfying life. I don't know about you, that sounds amazing to me. But in order for us to experience that, we're gonna have to choose to follow the voice of Jesus. Now, if you have your app out, your Eastside app, right there in the middle is this button called the Weekly Guide. And there you can see all the scripture that we're gonna read together. You have the chance of taking your own notes, and I'd love for you to engage that way. And the passage that we're gonna spend our time in today is John chapter 10. And we're gonna see Jesus explaining himself to all the people that were following him and listening to him. He was trying to paint this well-rounded picture of who he is and what he came to do. And he would often use these metaphors. More specifically, they were these I am statements. So Jesus would say, I am, and then he would fill in the blank. So he would say, I am the bread of life. I am the true vine. I am the light of the world. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And all of those were here to tell us who Jesus is and what he set out to do. But in John 10, what you and I are about to read is another one of Jesus' I am statements. And this time, he's gonna tell you how he feels about you. And I don't know when the last time you asked that question, how does Jesus feel about me? For some of you, you may be encouraged. Others of you, you may be a little nervous to hear the answer to that one. But I think what Jesus is about to tell us, it might actually change our lives. So let me warn you, before we jump into John chapter 10, Jesus is about to do two different things. Number one, Jesus is about to hurt your feelings. Right? I don't know if you've ever had your feelings hurt by Jesus. He's about to hurt your feelings. And then, quickly after, he's about to tell you the greatest thing that you've ever heard in your entire life. You ready? John chapter 10, verse 1. He says, I tell you the truth. Anyone who sneaks over the wall of a sheepfold rather than going through the gate must surely be a thief and a robber. But the one who enters through this gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep recognize his voice and come to him. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. After he has gathered his own flock, he walks ahead of them, and they follow him because they know his voice. They won't follow a stranger. They will run from him because they don't know his voice. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but Jesus just hurt your feelings, okay? In this metaphor, he says that he is the shepherd, which makes you and I what? Sheep. And I don't know what you thought he was going to compare you to, but when Jesus had the opportunity to compare you and me to any animal in the entire animal kingdom that he created, he looked us up and down and he said, sheep, all right? He could have said horse, right? We're just strong and fast and beautiful. He could have said eagle, majestically soaring through the air. He could have said lion, ruling over the pride lands. And nope, he said, I know them. They are sheep. And I don't know how much time you've spent around sheep, but they are famous for being incompetent, right? That's what sheep are famous for. They are completely defenseless. They are helpless. They are totally dependent. In the absence of a shepherd, all sheep do are get into trouble. They will wander off and most likely be attacked and probably die. That's what sheep do. When other animals are let loose, they will go explore the world. Some animals are even able to return home on their own. Not so with sheep. Sheep will just mosey off. They will actually follow other sheep without ever inquiring whether that sheep actually knows where it's going. That's what sheep do. Completely needy. And if you needed further evidence as to the deep incompetence of a sheep, then I want you to watch this video of a lamb being freed from a ditch by a young boy, and then what happens next. Go ahead and check this out.
А Буш, отойди.
Нет.
Потяни сейчас сам. Вверх потяни. Ой, умничка, Риад, умничка. Ногу не сломай только ему. Умничка, умничка. За обе ноги. Молодец, Риад. Умничка. Умничка. Все, операция удалась. Дурак!
That sheep is so dumb. I mean, seconds after being rescued from the ditch that was probably going to kill it, he takes 5 steps and cannonballs into the same old ditch. It's amazing. This is probably my favorite moment of the whole video. It's the apex of the sheep's leap, where you just know inside he's thinking to himself, I got this, all right? Totally fine. What could possibly go wrong? Only to lodge himself in the same exact ditch. And friends, may I lovingly suggest that that video looks a whole lot like you and me. I mean, tell me that that's not footage of us returning to the same old toxic friends that we said we were done with. And we go to the same old places, drink the same old drinks, wake up with the same old headaches, and we justify it by saying, well, it's better to be with them than to be all alone, and we end up in the same old ditch of regret. I mean, tell me that's not a video of us swiping the credit card one more time after we worked so hard to pay it all off because we've convinced ourselves that the next thing will be the final thing that will satisfy everything, only to wake up a couple days later and realize it did nothing. And we end up in the same old ditch of debt. Tell me that's not footage of us opening a brand new season of bitterness toward our mother. After working so hard with counselors and therapists to to forgive and to heal, only to have another memory that triggered all the same old feelings. And we justify it by saying, if anyone really knew the real her, if they had heard what she said, if they knew who she was behind closed doors, then they would feel the same way too. And we're in the same old ditch of bitterness. Jesus, in this metaphor, he says, I'm the shepherd, and we, you and me, we're the sheep. And what he's doing is he's like making direct eye contact with us and saying, I know you. Like, I know all of you. I know your sheepness. I know sometimes you wander off. And I know right now you feel kind of lost. I know right now you're really scared and you wish you could do this on your own. I know you all the way down to the bottom of who you are. And friends, if you're anything like me, that's a really terrifying thought. Because in my mind, what I'm convinced myself of is if anyone knew all of me, like all the way down to the bottom, there's no way they would stay around. They wouldn't love me, they wouldn't encourage me, they wouldn't stay in relationship. No matter where you're watching right now, whether you're at a campus or you're on a device, just imagine that screen that you see right now. Imagine it filled full screen with all of you. I'm talking about all the things that you filter and post publicly and all the things you keep privately hoping no one will ever find out. All the kind words that you say out loud and all the dark thoughts that you keep inside. Just imagine everyone could see all of you. None of us could withstand that. And the fear that we have is that if anyone knows me all the way down to the bottom, if they know my true sheepness, then they will bail. There's no way they could love me. And right now, Jesus has just told you that he knows it all. There's not been a single moment, not a single thought, not a single decision that has ever been hidden from him. And you might be nervous about what that will make him feel toward you. And I want you to allow him to speak for himself when he describes it in verse 11. Look at what Jesus says. He says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd sacrifices his life for the sheep. A hired hand will run when he sees a wolf coming and will abandon the sheep because they don't belong to him and he isn't their shepherd. And so the wolf attacks them and scatters the flock. The hired hand runs away because he's working only for the money. Doesn't really care about the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own sheep and they know me. Just as my Father knows me and I know the Father, so I will sacrifice my life for the sheep. They will listen to my voice, and there will be one flock and one shepherd. Friends, Jesus is an extraordinary shepherd. He does things that no one else would do. And when you have to decide, which all of us do, who we are going to follow, may I suggest that we follow the good shepherd that does what no one else could ever have even considered. I want to make 3 observations about the Good Shepherd as we wrap up our time today, and they are going to grow in their extraordinary nature. The first one is this, is that the Good Shepherd knows what is best for his sheep. As we've already established, sheep are dependent. They're very, very needy, and they always need someone else looking out for them. There's a guy named Douglas Macmillan. He was a British minister, and then also in his life, he spent time as a shepherd. And he described what it was like to lead sheep. And he said sheep would often get lost and they would mosey off to some area, and it was the shepherd's job to go find them and rescue them and return them home. But sheep didn't respond to being found like other animals. Some animals might show gratitude for seeing their owner. A dog might run up and lick your face. He said that's not what sheep do. When sheep are found by their shepherd, they panic. They run around, they don't know what to do. And so sometimes the most loving thing a shepherd can do for a sheep is tackle it. Like a linebacker coming over the middle. Take it off its feet, wrap up its hooves, and then throw it over its shoulder to take it back home. And meanwhile, the sheep has to be thinking, ow, right? Like, what is this dude's deal? He just tackled me. I can't move my feet anymore. I'm over his shoulder. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign the waiver. Why is he doing this? This does not feel very good. And friends, if you've been following Jesus for a little bit, can I ask you a pretty simple question? Is Jesus still a good shepherd, even when it doesn't feel good? See, there are these seasons in our lives where we started following God, maybe because we thought that would solve some things. Like it would clear out the path and it would smooth out the road, and maybe I would get some things that I didn't have before. And so then all of a sudden we're in seasons of waiting. Or maybe right now you're in a season of confusion and frustration. You might even be mourning the loss of someone you love, and it does not feel good. And in those seasons where it doesn't feel good, we're really tempted to look back at the shepherd and say, are you sure you're good? Do you know what you're doing? Because right now it feels like I have been tackled and bound up, and I'm not in control anymore, and I'm not sure that I want to keep following you. And may I just as gently and lovingly remind you of something I've needed to be reminded of over and over in my life. The shepherd knows things that the sheep do not. And it's possible that the most loving thing that the good shepherd could do for you right now is allow this season of pain, because he has a greater plan. The good shepherd knows what his sheep need. The second thing about the good shepherd is the good shepherd knows his sheep by name. In verse 3, it said that the good shepherd enters the sheepfold and calls them by name. Again, Douglas McMillan said it wouldn't be weird for the sheep, a flock, to know the voice of their shepherd. Imagine a shepherd walking into a sheepfold that multiple families were using, and that shepherd could call out, and only his sheep would respond. They knew his voice. That was a level they had spent so much time together, they knew his voice. But McMillan says, no shepherd names the sheep. That's a level of intimacy that no one else would go to. And Jesus raises his hand and says, I do. Like, I know you. I knew you when you were being knit together in your mother's womb. I've known you every second of your life. I've known you at the best moment that you can remember. I've also known you at the lowest part of your journey. I know you. And friends, I hope you will take some encouragement that the God of the universe that spoke everything into being that you and I have ever smelt or touched or experienced, he knows you by name. And he is intimately aware and intimately involved in your life. The good shepherd knows what his sheep need. The good shepherd knows his sheep by name. And finally, the good shepherd laid down his life for his sheep. Friends, the shepherd found the sheep valuable. That was normal. These shepherds back in the day, they didn't have bank accounts. They didn't have IRAs or 401ks. That wasn't available to them. They traveled with their wealth. The sheep were their wealth. And so when Jesus tells this story of a shepherd leaving 99 safe sheep to go find one lost one, that makes sense because it was so valuable. But what Jesus is saying, I would actually die for you. No other shepherd would do that. Other shepherds, they may protect, they may provide, but no one's laying down their life. And Jesus raises his hand and said, I did. You and I, we have countless influences, countless directions, countless voices that we can listen to. And it's going to require a choice for us to say, Jesus, I choose you. And may I suggest that of all the voices that we have at our disposal, the voice of the one that knows what's best for us, the voice of the one that knows us by name, the voice of the one that laid down his life will lead us to the destination that we want to arrive at. Like I said already, over the next few weeks, you're going to be equipped with how. Like say I'm in on that. Say I want to follow the voice of Jesus. How does that even happen? And Mike's going to be so helpful in equipping you with some of those tools. But today, we need to make a decision. I'm going to forsake all the other voices, forsake the opinions, forsake the worldviews. I am genuinely going to accept the voice of Jesus as the primary voice in my life that directs me to my destination. And if you're ready for that, here's what we're going to do. Only if you're ready, no pressure. I'm going to pray a prayer of surrender because that's what it requires. It requires us to let go of the white knuckle grip that we have on our lives and say, Jesus, even when you say the hard things, even when you say the things that maybe push me outside my comfort zone, I'm going to trust your voice. And so as I pray, I'm going to invite you to simply open your hands just like this. You can put them on your lap, no pressure to participate. It's just a symbol of surrender, saying, Jesus, I trust your voice above all others. Let me pray for you. Father, we're grateful. We couldn't have drawn this up any better. We couldn't have dreamt of a better leader, of a better influence, of a better voice. And sometimes it's hard for us to accept because it doesn't always seem simple and it doesn't always feel great in the moment, but we trust that you have a greater purpose and you have a greater plan. And the foundation of trust on which we are building our lives comes because you laid your life down on our behalf. You died in our place, and therefore we trust you with our lives. Father, guide us and lead us. Encourage us to hear your voice even clearer this week. And it's in your son's good name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Anybody else feeling grateful to have a shepherd in your life? I know I am. So, yeah. Just before you leave, a couple things. I feel that too. These next few weeks on this road trip series, we're just going to try to get better at hearing the voice of the shepherd together. So really want to invite you to come back next week. And that's the route we'll go. If you're new, really would ask you to stop by Guest Central, please, on your way out. Just stop by real quick. Hope your 4th of July is amazing and that you dress fashionably. Have a great weekend. Hey, well, thanks again for hanging out today, Eastside. Before you leave, remember that one of the best things about Eastside is called Next Steps. And if you haven't been, I tell you, you're missing out.
Next Steps is a 4-week experience designed to help you grow in your faith, make some great connections with others, and really make the most of your time with us here at Eastside. And a new round of Next Steps starts this week.
You can jump in at any physical campus, and if you prefer online, you can join on Wednesday evenings, 7 p.m. on Zoom. Just go to eastside.com/nextsteps to get more details and make it happen.
Well, Eastside, we love you, we're proud of you, and may God bless you this week as you follow him. See you next week.